Chapter 1. Echoes of Destruction. The sky over New York was alight with fire. A deep rumble reverberated through the streets as alien ships filled the atmosphere, their dark shapes blotting out the sun. For the past week, the world had watched helplessly as a fleet of colossal vessels descended on Earth, their advanced technology devastating cities in their wake. Humanity was on the brink of annihilation. The invaders, known as the Cathor, were ruthless, their superior firepower overwhelming humanity's meager defenses. There had been no warning, no mercy, just an unstoppable assault. In the heart of New York, deep beneath the city, General Nicholas "Nix" Carter watched the war unfold on a series of monitors. His hands gripped the edge of the steel table, and his jaw clenched in frustration. His team had been working nonstop for days, trying to patch together some form of resistance, but it was becoming increasingly clear that the Cathor didn't view humanity as a threat. They saw Earth as little more than a death world, a planet to be eradicated. But Nix wasn't one to give up. "General," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was Colonel Tara Green, his second-in-command, her expression grim. "We've just lost the Pacific Fleet. We're down to less than 1,000 ships globally, and half of those are limping. The Cathor are preparing to deploy their ground forces." Nix turned to face her, his steely resolve building in his chest. "And we'll make them regret it," he said, his voice low but full of intensity. "We've got no choice but to fight. The Cathor might think they've won, but they haven't faced humanity at full strength." Tara raised an eyebrow. "You're talking about guerrilla tactics? Because that's all we have left. We fight smarter, not harder," Nix replied. "They've underestimated us from the start. It's time to show them why they should be terrified of Earth." Chapter 2. The Cathor Invasion. On the Cathor flagship Tarisk, Supreme Commander Gareth watched the human resistance unfold with growing annoyance. The Cathor were an ancient and powerful species, whose empire spanned across several galaxies. They were used to quick victories, and they had expected Earth to fall in days. Instead, it had been nearly 2 weeks, and despite their overwhelming firepower, human forces kept regrouping, retreating into cities, forests, and underground bunkers, launching surprise attacks and inflicting significant damage. Gareth growled, his multiple eyes narrowing in frustration. "These creatures," he hissed, his voice a mixture of disdain and curiosity. "They are far more resilient than we were led to believe." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Vrash, stood beside him, observing the same data. "They are resilient, yes, but not strategic. Their attacks are random, desperate. They lack coordination. Their technology is primitive compared to ours." Gareth sneered. "Perhaps, but there is something dangerous about them. Their tenacity is unlike any species I have encountered." He paused, thinking. "Prepare the ground assault. We will crush their resistance once and for all. No more delays." Chapter 3. Guerrilla warfare. In the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, a ragtag group of survivors had made their stand. Nix and Tara, along with a small squad of soldiers, had found refuge in an old military bunker hidden deep within the range. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. The perfect place to regroup and launch their counteroffensive. "You really think this will work?" Tara asked, her voice skeptical as she surveyed the small team gathered around a map. "We're talking about an enemy with technology we can't even begin to understand." Nix studied the map, his fingers tracing lines across it. "They think we'll run. That's where they're wrong. They're treating this like a conventional war, and that's where we have an edge. We know this land. We know how to fight dirty. They're not ready for that." He tapped a series of points on the map. Key Cathor supply lines, communication hubs, and patrol routes. "We're going to hit them where it hurts, disrupt their logistics, make them chase shadows. For every inch of ground they take, we'll make them bleed. We'll make them question their decision to come here." Tara nodded, a spark of confidence returning to her eyes. "All right, General. Let's show them what Earth can do." Chapter 4. The hidden resilience. As the days passed, the Cathor ground assault began in earnest. Their massive war machines rolled through cities, incinerating everything in their path. Yet, each time they thought they had crushed the human resistance, the humans surprised them. A convoy of Cathor war transports was ambushed in the dense forests of Oregon. A Cathor fortress was disabled by a coordinated strike from a small group of soldiers who had scavenged Earth's abandoned weapons and repurposed them to fight back. They were outnumbered, under-equipped, and outgunned, but the humans refused to give in. Nix watched the reports come in, a growing sense of satisfaction settling in. The Cathor might have the upper hand, but humanity's adaptability and spirit were proving to be a formidable force. They think they've got us cornered, but they don't understand the terrain, Nix said to Tara as he watched a video feed of a successful ambush. We're not just fighting for survival. We're fighting for the future of Earth. Tara smiled. They'll learn that the hard way. Chapter 5. The Turning Point. The Cathor, still unaware of humanity's ability to adapt and strike back, continued their assault. But the tide began to turn when Nix and his team managed to infiltrate a Cathor communications hub on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. using a mix of human ingenuity and stolen Cathor technology. They planted a virus in the Cathor's command network, disabling their fleet coordination and causing confusion across the front lines. The Cathor were no longer able to effectively communicate, and their previously unstoppable force became fragmented. In the midst of this chaos, humanity launched their most daring attack yet. A full-scale offensive on the Cathor's forward command center. Nix's heart raced as his team advanced through the Cathor stronghold. The alien defenses were formidable, but their tactics were designed for brute force, not the cunning hit-and-run tactics humanity had perfected. The Cathor were learning, but they were learning too late. Nix's voice came through the comms, steady and resolute. This is it. Strike fast, strike hard. We take their command center, and we take their will to fight. As the final charge into the heart of the Cathor base began, the humans tore through their lines with explosive force. Every blast, every shot, was a message that no matter how powerful an enemy might seem, humanity would never kneel. Chapter 6. The final confrontation on the Cathor flagship Tarisk. Supreme Commander Zigareth was filled with a growing sense of dread. His fleet, once proud and powerful, was now scattered and leaderless. The human resistance had cut through their ranks like a blade through paper. Prepare to withdraw, Zigareth ordered, his voice heavy with bitterness. We underestimated them. The humans have become more than we can handle. But before they could retreat, the human forces launched one final, daring strike. A suicide mission aimed at the heart of the Cathor flagship itself. A small fleet of human ships, including Vanguard, Nix's flagship, rushed toward the alien command vessel with the intent to destroy it. It was a desperate move, but humanity had nothing left to lose. Nix and his crew would either succeed or die trying. There was no other option. As the human ships closed in on the flagship, Tara's voice crackled over the comms. We're almost there, General. Just a little longer. The Cathor flagship fired its weapons in a final attempt to defend itself, but the human ships were fast, darting between blasts and ramming their way toward the heart of the alien vessel. Nix's final command echoed in the comms as his ship collided with the Cathor flagship's central core. For Earth! He shouted. Epilogue. A new dawn. The explosion that rocked the Tarisk sent a shockwave through space, visible from Earth's surface. The Cathor flagship was gone. The heart of their invasion had been destroyed. As the remnants of the Cathor fleet retreated, beaten and broken, Earth's survivors began to regroup. The fight wasn't over, but humanity had taken a stand. And in that stand, they had proven to the galaxy something the Cathor had never expected. Humanity would never, ever give up. And Earth would endure.